Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's so nice to see everybody. And if you feel comfortable turning on your video, that would be great. This is going to work more sort of workshop style. It is a chat after all. And so I've organized this for us to chat with one another. So not so much a lecture, but more of a conversation. So it'd be great if you feel comfortable opening your video. That would be amazing. I am recording because, as you probably know, these sessions get archived and maybe other people are interested in conversation. If you are able to mute yourself, that would be really helpful too in terms of background sound. And feel free to unmute yourself if you want to speak at any time. So welcome, everybody. My name is Heather Friesen, and I'm here in the city of Toronto, and it's really a pleasure to organize this conversation this morning in Toronto, and have a chance to talk about interdisciplinary teaching and learning in the MYP. I'm just going to turn off the music. Here we go. And if you wouldn't mind, just in the Zoom chat, and a few people have already said hello, tell us where you're from. Where are you located today? We've got 26 participants in today's chat, and just really curious to find out where in the world everybody is. So wow, all over the place. India, Lithuania, London, Jordan, Texas, New Delhi. It's awesome. Hang on. And we've got a couple more folks who are going to join us. And we'll just give them a minute to come on in. Hi, everybody who's just joining us. Welcome to today's chat about interdisciplinary learning and teaching in the MYP, and welcome. We're just saying hello in the chat and saying where everybody is from. And if you feel comfortable turning on your video, that would be great. I am recording the session so that it can be archived on the IB Educator Chats site. And we've just got a couple more people joining us. And I just want to acknowledge Lenny. Lenny, thanks so much for creating these opportunities.
You're very welcome. I feel like I don't really do the hard work. I just like put stuff on the website, and everyone does all this hard work putting these presentations together, and I get all the credit. But
well, yeah, it's a brilliant idea, and appreciate being able to be part of it today.
Thank you so much.
So I have a few things to share. That I can pull up for us. And first of all, we are, as I said, we are going to do this more as a chat, have an opportunity to talk with one another about teaching and learning, interdisciplinary teaching and learning at our schools, and exploring the new guide. The new guide comes into effect beginning in September, and it is now available on the PRC. And I'm going to share with you right now the link to, I put it in a Google folder, so we'll just put it in a link. And if you didn't get it already, here's the link. So you can go ahead and make yourself a copy, because I am going to invite you to explore. That's why we came together today, was to explore this new guide. So in terms of a little agenda for our next hour together, I do have a little poll that I'd like us to do, a little quick chat I'd like us to do, and then we're going to break out into groups and explore the guide. I can share out, we found some of the new pieces in this guide. And then that'll take us to our hour will be finished. So I put this under the frame of this statement of inquiry. Change can enable authenticity and innovation. And that's kind of the theme for today as we explore this new guide. So to get us started, what I'd like to invite you to do is I have just a couple of poll questions, just to answer the poll and find out a little bit about who's here today. So we found out a little bit about where people are from, but let's start a little bit more about I'm just going to launch this little poll to find out about the people in the room. So I think there are 3 questions. So you should be able to see the poll. What's your role at the school? How many formal IDUs do you currently have each year at your school? And how familiar are you with the new guide? So just take about a minute to, that's great, thanks. I'm glad it was showing when you logged in and people have already started to answer that. So we'll just give that a minute to collect up poll answers. Just to find out a little bit about our schools and our roles in our schools. And we'll just say hello to the folks who are just joining. We're having a poll. So jump on the poll and tell us a little bit about your role and your experience with formal IDUs and with the new guide. So just about another half a minute or so, and we'll see we finish up the poll.
I'm still attending seminar, last 2 seminar. Pero ano naman, kung gusto ko lang makinig. So gusto ko lang.
So just finish up. We've got almost everybody has participated in the poll, and if you are not muted, if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself, then that would be helpful just to the background sound on our screens. Thanks. All right, so let's take a look. I'm going to end the poll and let's take a look at what we are. Most people have voted, and you should be able to see the results of the poll just to get a sense of who's here today. So most of us are MYP teachers. We've got quite a few coordinators and a couple of administrators. And most of us are working with the 1 formal IDU per year. A couple working a little more than that. And some familiarity with the guide. That's just terrific. And a few people who may be looking at it for the first time today. So that's great. All right, I'm going to put a couple of things into the chat. Just if you haven't got the guide handy, you're going to want to make yourself a copy there. It is also available on the Program Resource Center if you have any trouble accessing that link. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm as I said, my name is Heather Friesen. I work in the city of Toronto in Canada at a school called Branksome Hall. Branksome is a independent school for girls in downtown Toronto, and we are PYP, MYP, and DP school. And my role in the school, I've been the MYP coordinator, I've been the head of middle school at the school, and my current role is as a member of the senior leadership team overseeing the IB program generally in a role called curriculum, pardon me, curriculum innovation and professional learning. I'm also a member of the IBIN team, a workshop leader and a reviewer for EQ. And my favorite part of the MYP is the interdisciplinary teaching. And that's really why I wanted to come together with other educators today to chat about this new guide, because I think it's really got some interesting changes and would just make it a lot more accessible and authentic for schools to work with it. So if you need the guide, here it is in the chat. I keep adding it because as people join, they can't see the chat. So so if you already have it, you can ignore that I've been adding it in the chat. I'm going to put the slides, a couple of slides up again. And what I'd like us to do is a bit of a warm up. I'm going to put us into breakout rooms with just a couple of people, just for a couple of minutes. And the idea is just as a bit of an activator to our conversation today. talk about with your partners in your small breakout room, how is interdisciplinary teaching and learning organized at your school? So that's your chat for the next couple of minutes. How is interdisciplinary teaching and learning organized at your school? So we saw in our poll that most of us are doing one formal IDU per year, and some are doing more, but what does it look like generally? How are you organizing it? So I'm going to put you into groups of about 3 to have a short conversation about how teaching and learning, interdisciplinary teaching and learning is organized at your school. This is going to be a short conversation. You just kind of go around the room a little bit, have a brief chat, and we'll take just about 5 minutes. All right, so you should see an invitation to join the room, and so on you go.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And if you wouldn't mind just muting, if you haven't already done that, just to keep it just a little quieter in our screens. Feel free to unmute if you want to speak. I'll let a couple more people in. Now, let's take a look at the new subject guide. So we had a chance to chat about how we're organizing interdisciplinary teaching and learning today in our schools. And what I'd like us to do is do a bit of a jigsaw, looking at the aspects of the new guide. So again, for the folks who have just joined, I'm going to put the new guide, thanks Lenny, into the chat, and please make yourself a copy of that. And what I'd like us to do is we'll go back into rooms and we'll take a little longer this time to really explore, because a number of people said they haven't looked at the guide or haven't been able to look at the guide yet, to take a look at one part of the guide and tell us, report back to us, what do you see has changed? What did it used to be and what is it now? What's changed? And most importantly, what is that going to mean for our schools? So what are the implications? What innovations, what opportunities will open up as a result of these changes? So I'll just put up those instructions so that you can see them. So we really wanted, one of the guiding principles behind the changes in the guide, according to the curriculum managers, working on interdisciplinary teaching and learning in the MYP, is around authenticity. So what I'd like us to do as we're exploring the guide is where can we see that the impact of the change is going to lead to authenticity, is going to make things more authentic for our schools and for our teachers and for ourselves and for our students. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to give you one section of the guide to look at. What has changed? So when you look in that section, what's new or what resonates as a new idea for you? And then what are its implications for your school, for our schools, and how might that make it more authentic and easier to implement or more creative to implement? So we're going to do this on Jamboard. So you're going to be in a breakout room that has a number. So I'm going to show you what Jamboard looks like. So if we open Jamboard, and hopefully that lets you see it. Can somebody tell me, can you see now Jamboard? Are you still seeing the slides?
We can see it.
Great, thanks, Lenny. So you've got a number and the panel has a number too. There are 6 sections that I've divided the guide into. And so match your section to the panel on Jamboard and work on that one first. If you find you have enough time to look at another one, you can navigate to different sections, different panels, just by clicking the arrow. You can also expand all of them and jump to wherever you like. To add notes to Jamboard, the tools are just over here on the left. You can take a pen and write. That is a little hard to do. You can add a text box and type. And we're just going to remind everybody to mute. But the easiest way on Jamboard is to add a sticky note. So this one here, add a sticky note, and then you can just type on the sticky note. You can change its color. When you save it, it will add. You can drag it around, you can resize it, and you can delete it. So as you're discussing in your group, as a reminder, you want to look at the section of the guide that's assigned on your panel. So match your number, group number, to the panel number, and take notes. Now you can, everybody add sticky notes to the panel altogether, or you can assign one person, probably assigning one person to be the scribe, because with our numbers on the Jamboard is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. It might only allow 25, and we have more than 25 to be on the Jamboard at once. So the sections of the guide are here, and I'll put that link again in the chat if you didn't grab the guide already. All right, so first thing, here is the chat. And now we're gonna make slightly bigger groups this time around, and we'll take maybe about 15 minutes in your groups. And if you finish chatting about the one section, feel free to move on and explore a different section. When we come back, please make arrangements for one person in your room to report back the major changes. So what do you find that's changed, and what do you talk about in terms of implications for our schools? Let me put the Jamboard link in the chat as well. Thank you for that. Just 1 second. All right, and again, I don't think everybody is going to be able to be on the Jamboard altogether. So if you wouldn't mind asking one person or two people to scribe, and then other people come off the Jamboard, because it won't probably accommodate 40 people to be on it all at one time. Okay, so probably one person per room. You can sort that out when you get to your rooms. Please don't have everybody in your room on, because it probably means that some people in another room can't get on at all. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to organize that on your own. All right, so let's do slightly bigger groups this time. So we're going to do 6 groups. There are 6 panels. Match your group number to the panel number to start with. All right, I'm going to pop in and visit as you're chatting. So please join the breakout rooms. Hi there, we're just in a breakout room, so I'm going to invite you to one. So go ahead and join that breakout room, and the team can tell you what they are working on. Welcome.
We had very interesting unit in MYP 1 between math, design, and IAS. So okay. It was like math, the graphical presentations and data interpretations were taken up. Then IAS dealt with the SDG goal, and design was like to design a poster. So that's how the IDU was formed. And children were very much interested, you know, because it was a very different kind of learning coming from PYP.
Yes, yes, yes.
So group 6, I'm going to invite you to add some notes now to panel 6 on the Jamboard. Can you, is somebody on the Jamboard? I'm just screen sharing, but somebody else can take over just to get you started. So again, just grab the sticky notes and you can type in. So as you're looking at the section I'd like you to look at is at the back of the guide, looking at the new unit planners and the new evaluation rubric for IDU unit planners. So if you would take responsibility for that one and add some notes, what has changed and what are the implications for our schools as you look at those two pieces? Does somebody want to share their screen and put on the Jamboard in this group, group 6, and you can ask somebody to take notes, and then also we're going to ask you to report back on the changes to the IDU planner and to the rubric for evaluating IDUs. You have any questions?
No, Heather, we'll do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, we've got it. We're just going to take about 10 more minutes to do that. Maybe not even 10 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I'll do that.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Hello, group 5. Is anybody here? Anybody here in group 5? Oh, I think you've.
Yes.
Okay. If group 5 could take a look at the section on assessment. Assessment in the IDUs has changed considerably. I'm going to ask group 5 to report back on the changes to assessment of IDUs. So that's on page 39 to 48. You'll find all of the rubrics there. So you're going to be responsible for taking some notes on the Jamboard. Can you see the Jamboard when you click on the link? Do you need the link?
Yeah, we need the link. I'm not able to access it.
Okay, so let me see if I can put this into the link. Oops. So that should be the Jamboard link. Oh, that doesn't.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're just going to take about 6 or 7 more minutes, okay? So please ask someone to be prepared to present to us the changes. Okay, where did this go? Hi, group 4. Looks like you're doing a great job on the Jamboard. Thank you for taking some notes and finding some changes to the section on delivering IDUs. We're going to take another couple more minutes. A couple of the other groups need a bit more time. And then just maybe you could ask somebody in this group to report back. Sound good?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
That with more information.
Scroll down the.
Hi, group 3. So we're going to take just maybe about 4 or 5 more minutes. And if you wouldn't mind asking someone, just report back on the changes that you're seeing in terms of planning interdisciplinary learning or the implications for our schools. You're doing great. I love the way you've copied in the images. It's terrific.
Thank you.
Yes. So who is going to speak? Actually, Miss Nikki was telling us about how
they're thinking visual, right?
You're doing great, group 2. Thanks for, you've got some great Jamboard skills happening. Thank you. We'll just take a couple more minutes. A couple of the groups just need a little more time, but you look like you're doing great in terms of talking about the changes and the implications. Can you just make sure somebody is ready to do kind of the share back to the main session in a couple minutes? Thanks.
I nominate Eliana. I don't know if I'm saying her name right.
Yeah.
Really?
Hi,
Heather.
Hi, how are you, Katie? It's nice to see you again.
I know, a long time no see. When I saw your name, I put this into my calendar.
I wondered if I would, if anybody I knew would join. So it's really nice to see
How are you
you.
doing?
Keeping well. So you guys are doing great on the Jamboard. Thank you. And we're just going to have a couple more minutes. There's a couple of groups that are just needing a tiny bit more time. If you would ask one person to report back in just a couple of minutes, that'd be great. All right, I'll talk to you in a minute.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Heather.
All right, welcome back, everyone.
My baby.
Yeah, how old is she? Or her, the base? Sorry, I just
4 months. He's 4
and
months.
and their name.
He's Ben.
Ben,
Benjamin.
oh, yeah, so nice. It's one of the things I enjoy about Zoom meetings, actually, is meeting the families. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for a great chat and great notes on the Jamboard. So I'm going to put up the Jamboard, but I'm going to invite each group should have a representative who can speak. And I'm going to invite that person to just unmute themselves and go ahead and tell us the big ideas in terms of changes that you found and what you found the implications are for our schools. So group one took a look at the introduction, the first little part of the guide. So what did you find over there? I'm going to turn it over to group one.
All right, I am going to speak for group one. We had the introductory pages, and so we found that there wasn't, maybe we didn't notice, but we didn't see as much difference between the two guides. We did notice that there was more of a stress on the continuum between the PYP and the MYP and the DP in terms of the progression in the integration of interdisciplinary units. We also noticed the stress on authenticity with the services action piece, and we felt that there was like a connection between the interdisciplinary units and the personal project and extended essays. And we thought that they fleshed out the multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and interdisciplinary in a similar way, but I thought maybe it was more clear, but that might also just be our understanding now.
Yeah, I think that that resonated for me too. That is a little more clarity and a little more distinction between, or the relationship between the personal project, interdisciplinary, and then the subject groups. Yeah. Thanks, Katie, for that summary. Let's go to group two, who took a look at the next little chunk around interdisciplinary teaching and learning. So who can speak for group two?
I'll speak for group two. What we said is we have the subject group, we have the availability now to do IDUs, formal IDUs between the same subject group. This allows for more flexibility between the teachers because of the shorter timetable and the number of the teachers that are teaching the subject, so there will be more flexibility regarding that. Also, when we looked at the criteria is different. So we said it's 3 objectives instead of 4. And if you look at the strands of the objectives, there's more focus on creating a product within, and there's more emphasis regarding the action. So the product will lead into action in terms of the reflection in criterion C. So we have a question regarding that, how will it impact the assessment? So we're still going to wait for November session in order to see it. So we talked about the changes in the criteria because before we had communication and synthesis, and teachers, they had a hard time in differentiating between them. What else? We said the IDUs can be free of the pressure from other subject groups, from drama and from art in specific. Fewer criteria, fewer strands. It will help to make it more authentic and more purposeful because it's going to focus and guide the teaching and learning that's going to happen. I think that's mainly it.
That's great. Yeah, and those are some big changes. Those ones that you've identified, and really hoping that makes it easier for schools to find ways to do formal interdisciplinary units by adding in those flexibilities that you described. And hopefully one of the groups has done the assessment, so we'll come back to that, the changes from 4 to 3, and look at that one. Thanks, Eliana.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at the next one. So this group, this is group 3. Can group 3 unmute and tell us about planning?
Hi, I'll be talking for group 3. So we were looking at these pages 16 to 30, and one of the main identifiable differences that we saw was the way the figure was arranged. This was more of a lateral representation of what the planning sequence is in comparison to the old guide, which has the IB logo and the other details. And it did not explicitly showcase what exactly are the sequence of activities that is involved in interdisciplinary as a continuum. We also looked at and found out that there was a lot of emphasis given to authenticity and the clarity with which things were portrayed and projected in terms of how you need to go from one step to the other. It was really clear in comparison to the old guide. I think more emphasis to clarity. It was very streamlined. It was well documented. It was well put up for a new person or a new teacher who's just ventured into IDU also to understand what needs to be done. And more emphasis on examples. Lots of examples in terms of this particular diagram that I put up here. You can see it on page number, I think 18 or 19. It gives you a nice flow chart, what needs to be done in the different scenarios. So that was a good, lots of diagrammatic representations across those pages. Now here I've highlighted something in blue. This is basically something we had discussed. It's not a part of our 16 to 30 page overview, but it's something wherein there was this topic of discussion that subject groups can now do an IDU within their subject groups. We don't have to go like group 3 with group 4 or math with a science. If you have a science, you can have physics with chemistry or chemistry with biology. So just wanted to get some clarification from you as well on this. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a big change and should make everything should make it a lot easier. One clarification on that one: if you teach an integrated subject, so for example, I teach integrated sciences, which means in my one course I do a little bit of earth and space science, a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of physics, and a little bbit of biology. I can't integrate with myself. So if you're teaching an integrated, but as you said, some schools have a discrete biology course and a discrete chemistry course. So in that situation, you can integrate chemistry and biology. So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. That's a really big change, and should be really helpful. And I like thank you for pulling those 2 diagrams into your Jamboard. Everybody can take away this link to the Jamboard in these notes as an artifact of this chat. And these are some nice graphics that really, Smita, thank you for putting them, your group putting them here. And if you look at figure 4 up in the corner, it really reminds us that interdisciplinary formal units are not the only way to incorporate, sorry, I think that blue just added on top, just move that back. Not the only way to think about interdisciplinary learning. That borrowing threads from other subject areas, leveraging what students already know, is also a really appropriate way to integrate what students are experiencing in their other subject areas, even without doing a formal interdisciplinary unit. So we really want to be looking for those opportunities all the time as MYP educators. And of course, the one formal IDU requirement is still there. Thanks, Smita. And group 4 took a look at delivering. So who can speak for group 4?
We've not planned who is going to speak, so I'll speak. And Kanchan, if I miss out something, please pitch in.
Yes,
Okay?
yes, go ahead.
Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. So throughout the thing, what we read through, we found that it was more structured, easy for us as well as for the student. And the tables, which was completely organized, the table 9 and table 10 shows the timeline. How can we take up this unit throughout the year, or however it is comfortable, we can take it as. Before it wasn't like that. So that was one thing. And we can run a unit parallelly along with this. Correct me if I'm wrong somewhere.
No, go ahead. Correct.
Yeah. So this was what we discussed as the first point, and the major point that we saw was more importance and emphasis was given for the performance of the task rather than like students have like set of facts they possess, but rather something that is what they do is what is going to be looked at.
Yeah, and that's a big change. The first one that you talked about in terms of the timing, moving from, so acknowledging that it's not always possible to do them concurrently, that sometimes what schools need is to do them sequentially, or to do the disciplinary pieces sequentially to give kids those experiences. And so the recognition of that is a terrific, I think, flexibility and authenticity. Thank you for that. All right, group 5.
Sorry to interrupt. I think there are some people in the waiting room. Could you please check that?
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then as we're doing that, can group 5 tell us about assessment? Group 5. I wonder if they've popped into the waiting room. All right, well, let's take a look at what group 5 added to the Jamboard. One of the big change, so we talked about already, one of the groups already identified that the number of objectives has changed from 4 to 3. You know, when all of the subject areas have gone to 4, it does seem funny that these ones, this and personal project as well, have gone to 3. But that's part of the authenticity. I think when they reviewed the criteria, the objectives and the criteria, these ones really resonated as being worthwhile and highly relevant, and to add in other ones was reducing the authenticity. So they were very much wanting it to be authentic and to be useful and to be highly relevant. So even though, so they've gone to the 3. They also felt that these particular 3 better reflect the interdisciplinary cognitive process. And I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind muting. Thanks. And one of the big changes that you'll see in criterion A is the move away from assessing disciplinary grounding. So in the old guide, you assessed the disciplinary grounding, and they felt that there was too much focus on that because you assess that in your subjects. So we don't need to assess it again here. What we want to assess here is the interdisciplinary part, that part that's uniquely why we're doing the interdisciplinary unit, and the cognitive processes around that. One of the other things you're going to notice is in some of the language, there is two command terms. But look at the second command term. That's the one that really carries the weight in terms of helping you differentiate what the student should be doing. So sometimes it has 2. So I can give you an example. Not so quickly. So for example, in criterion A, evaluating, the strand is analyze disciplinary knowledge. So not communicate disciplinary knowledge, but analyze it. So what have we needed and where did we use it? But if you look at the qualifiers on page 42, at the highest level, fully analyzes by explaining disciplinary knowledge, versus the next band down, analyzes by describing. So it always says analyzes, but how are they analyzing? What are they actually doing? That's where the qualifier is. So that's another change. And I think leveraging the command terms and the degrees of difference quite well. Again, to make it easier for us to do this, because assessing IDs is actually quite tricky. And then and so those would be some of the big changes there with the assessment piece. All right, and then let's hear from our last group. Group 6 was looking at the unit planners. So the unit planners have also changed. So group 6, does somebody want to tell us about that?
Actually, we couldn't open it so clearly. I mean, we needed more time. So we looked at evaluating unit planner, but that part, something which we noticed that earlier it was a separate document, which is now part of the guide. And that makes a total sense because we could see how it is really now going to work for teachers. Another important thing which we realized that all those descriptors, beginners level or using or sharing, they have more clarity compared to earlier, what it was. But we couldn't really see much of the difference in terms of the strands descriptors in evaluating unit plan. Maybe we didn't get time to get through that because we could do only purpose of integration and statement of inquiry, and we didn't see much. So please correct us if we are wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And let me just put up a few little summary pieces here of some of the things that we've already, as a group, talked about to kind of wrap us up for this morning. But one of the things that's changed in the unit planner is there's no more a form of integration. And you probably noticed that in earlier stages of the guide. So the previous guide asked us to identify a form of integration. And now what we really want to do is focus on the purpose of integration. So why are these subject groups coming together? What does each one contribute to the process of integrating and developing new understandings? So much more emphasis on the purpose of integration. So that's one of the big changes. The other change, and it's linked in the planner, but it probably takes you to the Program Resource Center. And so it'll open when you're logged in to the Program Resource Center. There are 2 versions of the planner. So again, you know how we have the kind of the tilted version of the regular unit planner that we use in workshops. There's also a version, 2 different ways of organizing, again, just to introduce flexibility. And the last piece that I'm going to put in the chat is the new teacher support materials. And in the teacher support materials, you'll see examples of student work, you'll see examples of interdisciplinary units, and you will see examples of planner, an example of a planner that is well written, like very detailed. So I'll put that link again. All of this is on the Program Resource Center, but just to make it a little easier for you to find it out before we sign off, I will put that into the chat. So some of the highlights here on this summary page, all things that the groups reported back on. And then just this idea of action is really a new idea as well, that an interdisciplinary understanding should lead to the possibility of action. It doesn't have to lead to taking action in this moment, but it needs to open up the possibility for action.
So it has given a lot of student agency, a lot that I can see it in this unit planner, a scope for agency and bringing it up from PYP to MYP, focus is there. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let me add one more link for you to take away, which is the teacher support material. This is, and again, all of this is available on the Program Resource Center. I think they are still doing a little bit of revisions on the guide. One thing that was noted was they'll bold the qualifying terms in the rubrics as they have in the other guides, and that hasn't been done yet. But that kind of concludes our exploration of the new guide. I hope that you've enjoyed your chat this morning, meeting some people from different parts of the world and exploring how interdisciplinary is happening in our MYP schools. It's really my pleasure to facilitate this conversation today, and really great to see everybody. And I hope that you stay well. wherever you are and whatever the global context looks like in your location. It's not looking great right here in Toronto, although it's a sunny day, so we'll take that. So thanks everybody for joining me. It's really a pleasure. Thanks again, Lenny, for making these opportunities available to educators around the world. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Bye.